The Samsung Galaxy S10, with its bezel-less screen and Cheerio-looking camera hole up in the top corner, is quite possibly one of the most feature-rich flagships of 2019. With its underscreen ultrasonic fingerprint scanner and reverse wireless charging, it's time to take a look at it all from the inside. Did you know that in order to make 1 pound of honey, it takes pollen from 2 million flowers? And 12 bees will work their entire lives just to make 1 teaspoon of honey. Few more nature facts for you while rocking D-Brand's latest skin called the Black Swarm. Link in the description, and thanks to D-Brand for sponsoring this teardown. It's time to review the Galaxy S10 from the inside. Let's get started. Glass-backed phones might look intimidating to take apart at first glance. No visible screws, just a solid glass sandwich. But it's actually not too bad. I can use my heat gun to get the phone warmed up till it's just barely too hot to touch, and then pull up on the glass with a large suction cup, while simultaneously slipping a razor between the frame and the glass to cut away the adhesive, and then repeating the process several times to keep the phone super hot and the adhesive soft. The whole process only took me about 5 minutes, and I still have all my fingers. Not too shabby. The first look inside the phone shows that the rear glass has nothing attached to it. A clear S10 would definitely be possible. With everything covered in black plastic though, there wouldn't be much to show off. Nothing quite tops last year's clear Pixel 3. The wireless charging pad doesn't look like it changed too much, which makes sense. Whether power is being sent or received, it's still going to happen through the circular copper coils inside this pad. Inductive coupling allows the coil to pull power from or transfer power to whatever wireless charging coils are placed next to it. Pretty nifty. There are 14 screws holding the wireless charger and black plastics to the motherboard. Once the screws are gone, I can pop off the black plastics, exposing the internal circuitry of the Galaxy S10. On the undersides of the plastic, we see square contact pads that line up with the motherboard to transfer that wireless power, and then a few more square contact pads down here next to the loudspeaker. These also rest up against the motherboard. Pretty normal stuff so far. I'll unplug the battery and take out the SIM and SD card tray, and then I can take my plastic pry tool and unclip the screen ribbon, just like a little Lego. The headphone jack ribbon, and the front-facing 10 megapixel Cheerio camera, also unplug. It's not actually called a Cheerio camera, I just can't help myself at this point. No optical stabilization on this little guy, but we'll get an up-close look at the underside of that screen here in just a second. There are 2 screws down at the bottom, supporting the charging port, and another silver screw up here in the main chunk of the motherboard. And once those are unscrewed, the whole motherboard can come loose from the frame. Now here's where we run into a problem. You might have spotted it already. The charging port is soldered onto the motherboard, and not removable. This is super disappointing. With last year's Galaxy S9, if your charging port or bottom microphone stopped working, the replacement part could be purchased on Amazon for $15, keeping your phone alive for cheap. But now that Samsung has made their charging port permanent and not replaceable, repairing a charging port or microphone is not possible anymore. This is some Apple-level anti-consumer planned obsolescence baloney. USB-C, while pretty reliable, can still break with time or corrode. The bottom microphone could also fail at any point. It's pretty lame of Samsung to make it permanent. Not cool. Now if something stops working, you have to buy a whole new phone when your warranty runs out, instead of replacing it for just $15. From the Galaxy S6 till now, they've all been modular. While that change is rather unfortunate, Samsung did add another camera up here, which is good. Now we have 3 cameras attached to the upper portion of the motherboard. You might be thinking to yourself, man, that is an ugly color of plastic they're all sitting in, which is true, but it's the natural color of plastic before dyes or coloring is added. So Samsung is probably just saving a few pennies on a part that nobody sees, except for the millions of us watching this teardown. Thanks for subscribing. On the left we have a 12 megapixel telephoto camera with optical image stabilization, and in the center we have another 12 megapixel normal camera. Samsung claims this has OIS as well, but I don't see a whole lot of movement. And on the right we have a 16 megapixel ultra-wide camera that I'm pretty excited about. Not excited enough to upgrade my Galaxy S8 just yet, but I do like where the future is headed. The main center camera is still rocking Samsung's mechanical variable aperture. This is normally controlled with magnets. The little flaps dictate how much light can get into the sensor, so it can take better pictures. Samsung's doing some pretty cool stuff. No glimpse of the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner yet. I have a bad feeling it's going to be hard to get to. Down here at the bottom of the phone we can see some waterproofing, like the rubber and water-resistant mesh around the loudspeaker hole. Pretty beastly stuff, and it's crazy seeing it all up close and personal like this. Especially when we remember it's really just the size of an ant. The microphone has its own mesh square, and the irreplaceable charging port attached to the motherboard has its own rubber ring to keep water out. The headphone jack is removable, and the vibrator is the same circular coin-style vibrator motor Samsung has always used. Take a look at this heat pipe though. I'll have to chop that open in a second, right after we get this battery out. Samsung once again has made this pretty difficult, with a lot of adhesive under the battery holding it down. The annoying part is that it's the same type of adhesive we see attached to Magic pull tabs.